Let's talk briefly about how we've been dealing with sidebar regions so far. We've taken two different approaches. The first has been using the theme sidebar regions. These are the ones that are visible to us when we go to the block's configuration page and include sidebar first, sidebar second, and so on. Both Display Suite and Views have allowed us to display related content in those sidebar regions. The second option that we've taken is using a layout within the content region of the page, and we can do that using Display Suite or panels. In general, as you begin building out a site, it's a good idea to start by using the themes regions. Those are built in already to the theme that you're working with, and so it's natural to use them. And as other site builders come in to manipulate content on the site, it's also a natural place to look, the block's configuration page or the context page, to see where the blocks are displayed on the site. One advantage to going with the block's configuration page or context for managing the display of blocks throughout the site is that you can set the blocks to display on multiple pages or be hidden on particular pages. Whereas with panels, with every variant you create, you have to position all of the blocks that you're going to display on that page. What that means is that if we have blocks that we display throughout the site, for example, a search block, then if we create a variant for our product review page and we add that search block as part of that variant, and then we create another variant for our product pages, we're going to have to re-add that block into it and make sure it's positioned in a way that's consistent between the two variants. By using context or the block's configuration page, we can simply say, display this block everywhere on our site. So if you decide to centralize on using panels for your layout, then it's important to understand that this is a factor. And there are a couple of different ways to approach it to make it a little bit easier to position blocks on a consistent basis throughout the site. The first is by using mini panels, and we're going to go into an example of using mini panels next. With mini panels, we can create a panels variant that we can then embed in other panels pages or as a block in other regions of the page. So we can collect a set of blocks into a panel and then display that in one of the theme regions. So this is one way that panels allows us to break out of the content region of the page. But unfortunately, at least at the time that we're recording this video, mini panels don't have a context that you can use to, for example, display certain fields from the node we're currently viewing in it. But we can use other blocks that don't change from page to page, like menus or the search block or even views. The other option is using something called Panels Everywhere. What Panels Everywhere does is turn your entire site into a panels display, basically removing all of the theme regions on your site. Instead, the theme regions become panel regions. To use Panels Everywhere, you have to use a theme that's compatible with it. If you just turn on Panels Everywhere, you're not going to use it to override your theme unless you're using a set of specific themes available for it. If you're a themer, you can also convert a theme to make it Panels Everywhere compatible. But keep in mind that if you do use Panels Everywhere, you're going to run into the issue where for every variant you create, you'll have to reposition the global blocks on your site. So for example, if you want your logo and your menu to display on every page of the site, every variant will have to have that manually added to it. For people who are fans of Panels Everywhere, that's not a big deal. You're not going to have an unlimited amount of variants, so it's not that bad. And you can also use mini panels in order to bundle those blocks together, so you only have to add a couple of mini panels to each page instead of all of the individual blocks. Ultimately, what a lot of people will do is use a combination of panels and the theme regions on a site. For example, they'll keep the theme regions for the header and the footer, but then for the sidebars, they'll use panels across the board on their entire site. If you go that route, you can simply create mini panels for any blocks that are consistent in your sidebar regions and add them for any variant that you create. So in general, just like I mentioned before, it's a good idea to begin by using the themes regions, and if you can get what you want with that, then great. If you need more, then you can start using panels in order to override those regions. And a good first step is overriding the sidebar regions and using panels consistently for the main area and the sidebar regions across the site. and keeping the header and the footer as the theme regions. If you decide to use panels everywhere to make both your header and your footer regions panelable for the entire site, then you'll have more configuration ahead of you, but ultimately you may have the additional flexibility that you need in order to get the configuration setup that you really want.